Hey, what is up guys? So we are going to be doing a deck profile for the Shaddoll hat or the Shat deck that all of you guys have been asking me to upload, and I've been doing a lot more testing, and over in the higher rated section on DevPro, this is basically what this deck is oriented around actually being able to combat. It combats the other higher tier decks, and I know there are going to be some cards that some players don't like, but we'll get into the explanations why in just a moment. But for the most part, over in the higher rated section, Shaddolls are one of the most common decks that you will run into when you're playing against those high rated players. There's also the Cliffos still, those are always going to be a very popular deck because Killer still can destroy this deck tactically, but I've got a few techs in here to make that matchup a little bit easier. But let's go ahead and jump right into it, and I'll explain everything as we go along. So first off, we got the one Cephalon. It's just a card that's nice to have to not only get over Killer, but it also allows you just to throw down a card if your play doesn't go through. Kind of like the same mindset of going for a play, your play gets disrupted, you have your soul charge to hopefully be able to make a play after that. And this card definitely helps out against some other decks that really need you to play a more aggressive against them. Next up, I'm playing BLS, of course. BLS is a fantastic card, and any deck that runs Darks and Lights in this deck definitely does run them. Next up, I decided to go with 3 Beasts because Beast essentially lets you get all your draw power going. Plus, Foolish Burrow is just like a deck thinning card because I want to be able to get to this card as quickly as possible when you get matched up against any Pendulum deck, and also against the Cliffos. I know I said I hated this card, and I still really don't like this card because it becomes dead very, very fast if you're not able to draw it within the first like 3 turns, because you're going to be able to get your cards relatively fast in this deck. Everything basically searches for other things or it dumps extra things, and playing 3 Lizard really lets you get your cards that you need as fast as possible. And this card is just here because, again, the Cliff-Oath matchup makes it so much easier. It's a little bit of a utility card too. It doesn't only just send the Shaddoll card, but you can change from face down to face up defense position, which is pretty awesome since Falcon doesn't exactly have the most high attack points. But Beast, again, to just deck things as quickly as possible. And also is a level 5 card that, you know, can help out if you need to make a Black Rose with like a Falcon. Or Falco, as his name is now. Next, I'm playing 2 Moral Attack and 2 Moral Attack to of the Artifact Sanctums. It just helps out a little bit. Sometimes your plays don't go through. Again, going back to the same mindset. Also, one card I really don't like running into is that Masked Hero card. There's a few players that once in a while they'll play that Masked Hero, the Law, and this card it gets pretty nasty. It's just that it must be summoned by max change, and anything that it's a macro for the other person that doesn't have this on their field. It's what is it also? Yeah, it's once per turn if your opponent adds a card from their main deck to their hand, except for during the draw phase, you can banish 1 random card in your opponent's hand, which actually does hurt, but the main effect is any card sent to your opponent's graveyard is banished instead. It just really helps out. I mean, there's a lot of players that still play the Masked Heroes, but I wouldn't say in the high-rated section you see them too often. It's mostly, again, going back to my point, Shaddoll mirror match, sometimes the Cliffos. Cliffos have been getting a lot less popular. I think it's because not only do people not really enjoy the playstyle of the deck because it's very linear, but also Shaddolls with this card, it wrecks them pretty easy. Or some people just main deck triple MSC to combat that deck, and I myself, when I'm playing Cliffos, if I get MSC'd, sometimes you just lose the duel. It just happens, and it's not a very fun deck to play or play against is really what it comes down to. But yeah, this just helps out against just problematic cards in general. And just be like, oh, you know what, let me go ahead and go for that Sanctum and get rid of any problematic card that, of course, is face up. Next up, I'm playing 3 Dragon again. Being able to pop spell and traps is really nice. Also, when you're going for your Nephilim, it's just nice to be able to get an additional plus, because you already go plus technically with Shaddoll Fusion. Also, the reason why I love 3 Shaddoll Beasts, sometimes if your opponent doesn't have anything from the extra deck, just going for Shaddoll Fusion and then you go for Beast, and you really don't go minus that way. Sometimes early on in the game, like they don't have any back row and you really want to throw up a mid-range first turn. There's nothing that really lets you get free pluses early on in the game unless you already have like a graveyard established, so Beast is also just great for that. Then I'm playing 2 Moral Attack, again, just going back to the 2 Sanctum. I decided to go with, I almost want to go 3 of these because I really don't mind being able just to set these cards because it still has that effect. Even a mirror match sometimes is actually kind of viable where you can just target 1 card in the field and destroy it. But it kind of sucks because Shaddolls get their effects when they're destroyed by battle or whenever they're basically sent to the graveyard. Whether you destroy them with card effects, they're going to get an effect, or for you attacking them, they flip up, they get an effect. But for the most part, sometimes this card can still be good even though they'll get their effects in mirror match. But Dragon is just fantastic. Also, the ability to target one card your opponent controls. And remember, that doesn't have to be a monster. Some people only think it was monsters. I ran into that a few times. But yeah, you can just target one card your opponent controls and return it to the hand. So also can deal with Law. Law kind of hurts this deck, I'll admit. If you don't happen to have the cards that you need immediately, this can kind of become a problematic card. Obviously, you still have the ability to go for Shaddoll Fusion, but you kind of go minus, especially if your summon either doesn't go through or they're able to, I don't know, like deprison your monster or something. And at that point, you're not looking at a favorable game. Or even if they just Mirror Force, because remember, everything gets banished from your side of the field, or whenever your things go to the graveyard, they just get banished instead. So yeah, it hurts the deck quite a bit. Playing 3 Lizard just to deck them as quickly as possible. Plus, it has a mediocre effect too. You can target one monster and fail to destroy it, and it's just a deck thinning the other ability. Now, I decided to go with 2 Diona and 2 Murmillo. You can, if you want, you can play triple Murmillo. I just love Diona's effect to special when she's special summoned, because remember, you can play Soul Charge in the deck as well. You can actually bump Soul Charge up another one if you want to, but this card in Mirror Match has been so good. And I mean, since we're already on the deep, dank trap hole, this card is really good just because in Mirror Match it just banishes cards. Like, I just want multiple bottomlesses because Torrential, it's not really there because even though you're going to be able to disrupt their play, unless you're going to be able to OTK them, which isn't something that's very common in this deck. I mean, I know if you have BLS, if you have South Falon, if you have the Dark Arm, you have the Mortal Tax ready to go, yeah, you can OTK, but very rarely will you be able to OTK another Shaddoll player because they can set, they get more flip effects, they're going to get effects off of Falco over here, and it's kind of difficult to OTK them. So Torrential Tribute, I just don't really like too much. I decided just to go, I mean, if you want, you could definitely try Compulse, that'd be a card, but it just wasn't a searchable card off of the Murmillo, so I decided to drop the Compulse and go with the Deep Dank Trap Hole. I love this card so much just because it banishes stuff. And I know some players are going to be like, Asian Eyes, you're so bad, why don't you play the Trap Tricks Trap Hole Nightmare? This card in Mirror Match it's a joke, honestly. It doesn't really hurt them at all because most of the stuff that we're going to go for, well, the main card that you make, in Mirror Match, you don't really want to make this. This card comes out more often than anything, but the thing is, they're just going to be able to add Shaddoll Fusion, and you don't want that. You want to get it banished, send it off to Shadow Realm, and then they can't re-add that back. That is really key in the Mirror Matches. Don't let them add back the Shaddoll Fusion. That is why I'm playing double Honor Arc, and that really helps out, and we'll get into the other cards later. But for the most part, the reason why I like 2 Diona is just be able to search out this card as quickly as possible is definitely key in Mirror Match. Next I'll play 1 Fire and 1 Ice hand. And I like this so much better than playing multiples because in this deck, going back to the same idea that this deck is relatively fast, especially when you play 3 copies of this and you're playing the Foolish and the Lure. I just want to do 1-1, and this way a lot of players are afraid to attack into these. I noticed that, like, if they attack into the Ice hand, the Fire kind comes out, they're like, no, I don't want to deal with that. They'll burn their 101, and then you won't have those dead draws. Because I tried 3-3, and a lot of times in this deck, there's a lot of good cards that you can still technically set. For example, Dragon and Lizard are still fantastic cards to set because you're able to, you know, get rid of, you know, one problematic monster or just any card with Dragon. Dragon is so OP, I swear. With 1900 attack too, I feel like there's a lot of great cards that you can set, and since I have these as my summons, I really don't think this is really necessary, but I felt like just having them as a threat, as long as your opponent doesn't know you're only playing 1-1, I think these cards are excellent because it really puts the fear in them. And in other random decks, even for the Mirror Match, I don't really like this card too much, but the thing is, just to put that fear in them, they're like, oh, I really don't want to attack into another one. It's worth it, trust me. But next up, I'm playing 1 Geospatial Grab. This is like the best card. Honestly, if I could play 2 of these, or if I could play 3 of these for Mirror Match, this card just wins. It wins the game so hard because being able to just bounce back stuff, and it's like, no, you can't. Like, being able to bounce back the fusions, and they can't re-add that hurts them a lot. And a lot of times with Shaddolls is, one player will make whatever they make, regardless. Usually people try to throw out mid-rash early on as possible if they don't know it's Mirror Match because they're trying to stun a deck. Then the other player always makes this card and it basically deals with mid-rash relatively quick. Then the other player goes and makes their Nephilim, and then it kind of has a cycle where they try to see who can basically keep their monster on board, even though as soon as the other one gets killed, they re-add Shaddoll Fusion. And a lot of times in Mirror Match, a lot of the, I would say, unexperienced players will actually run out of cards. They'll actually go through everything because they're able to add back Shaddoll Fusion, but they'll run out of stuff to actually make with it. But Geospatial Grandma is fantastic for that, and it makes it so they can't add back to the Shaddoll Fusion when the monster hits the grave because you're just going to send it back to their extra deck. So I love that card for that reason. Then I'm going with 3 Hedgehog because you need Shaddoll Fusion in the deck. That's really important. I almost want to drop this card down to 2, but a lot of times you need to play aggressive, especially when your opponent throws up a threat, or if you're playing against Cliffos, you need to be as aggressive as possible because once Killer comes out, you have very limited options as what you can do. For most decks even, once that Killer comes out, it's just like, oh man, I need something fast, and hopefully you can get this relatively fast. Otherwise, it's just not a very favorable game after Killer comes out. Next I'm playing 2 Falco, or his name was Falcon, but yeah, in English it's Falco now, which I actually am okay with. But this card is fantastic. Keep in mind, you can still get back the fusions, which makes this card super awesome. For that, plus he's a tuner, so he's able to let you synchro for other things like Leo in the game, which is definitely nice. And I actually dropped Catastrophe for another one of these and all. It's basically because the Ying Zing Dragons, if you make this card, you win. Like, there's very limited things that deck can do to play aggressively against you, because all they gotta do is they just have to, all of their plays are just set. The biggest beater they have is a 1900, and until they get that card that lets them double their attack, which they can't activate anyways during the damage steps, so Armades just basically dumps on the deck, and that's why I decided to play 2 of them, because sometimes you make one and then they go for Dark Hole or something like that, and then you don't have another option. But if you make this card, it beats the deck super fast, and that's why I'm playing 2 of them. And I dropped Catastor, and I also dropped what was that other card that I dropped in the extra? I dropped another card, but it's because I like these. This in Mirror Match is also pretty good. 1 random tech effect, Valor. It's just another card I can just send to the graveyard that's not Moral Tech. Sometimes I send this, but a lot of times I don't want to send this. And originally I was playing Electromagnetic Turtle, but I hated drawing this thing, so I was like, no, screw it, not even playing this card. This card is definitely good. It's not out yet, but you can swap in this for the Valor if you want to. I just figured Valor, I was like, well, it's a tuner, and with Soul Charge, it lets me make options for this card, which don't ever take this card out. Put this card in your deck, you will not regret it when you're able to get matched up against Shaddoll player, and you send back a bunch of the stuff, because usually they'll have like 1 Shaddoll Fusion on board, and then they usually set Falco, Dragon or something. Being able to miss Worm is so key a lot of times in the Mirror Match, and that's why I love this card. This card is pretty self-explanatory. You play lots of darks. At one point I think I was playing Levier, but it was like very difficult to make with, like, you'd have to like set Hedgehog, hope Hedgehog didn't die, and then I guess you could summon Granville or just normal summon another one. It just wasn't really viable, but yeah, Allure just makes the deck go kind of faster. Sometimes you, like I said, when you know you're playing against Cliffos, this card is just, it's too important to have first turn. Then 3 Fusion, because it's a pretty good card. And then 1 random Soul Charge, because, I mean, I think every deck, almost every deck I would say actually, should probably main deck at least 1 Soul Charge. This is like a game-winning card, and I decided not to play 2 because, I mean, I have a lot of cards where they can be kind of dead. Like, okay, let me go through, like, these can be dead, this can technically be dead if they don't have anything, and instead, you know, let's just go with 1 Soul Charge. I'm pretty satisfied with the way it runs right now. Then I'm playing 1 Foolish Bearer. This is like really easy. You just Foolish this, and then you're able to send this, and then you get to draw a card off of it. So it's like a neutral deck thinning that also lets you dump cards in the graveyard for Falco, or for your other plays, like if you want, you need another dark, oh, you need a dark for BLS, and you don't want to banish whatever, you can just go ahead and Foolish, get a plus off of Beast, basically. That's basically what you do. Well, if you want your deck to go a little faster, send Lizard, send Beast, and just makes it a little bit faster. Next up, we play 2 of the Artifact Sanctums. So this card is just, it's like I said, being able to get rid of problematic cards as quickly as possible is definitely key. Like, someone goes D-Fisher, you're like, oh, you know what, this is cool, just actually, I'm gonna go ahead and just get rid of that card, which is really nice. Because remember, this doesn't have to be monsters also. This is just really for Mirror Match. You can play Black Horn of Heaven if you want. Oh, one argument that I wanted to present to you guys is, I know some players are going to say, well, you know what, this card is not always live against every deck. Like, for example, like Bujins, this probably won't be used at all, where this card can definitely be used. I understand, but like I said, this deck was oriented around combating what is the high-rated section over on DevPro, and it's a lot of times you'll get Shaddoll Mirror Match. And it also gets rid of, like, Judgment Dragon. Any of the Dragon Rulers to be able to banish is kind of nice. Not that there's too many players playing Heretic Rulers, but hey, it's still available for you. I understand that it can be a dead card. Like I said, if you want, go ahead and put this card in here if you want, but in Mirror Match, this card is almost a joke. Like, it's really not too viable. Then I'm playing 1 Bottomless, which is basically as similar as I can be to this. Well, this card is basically similar to Bottomless as it can possibly be. I also was thinking about Karma Cut. If you guys haven't seen this card, I'll show you it real quick. But I just really don't like going to minus. So I don't know. It's up to you guys on that. If you want to try out Karma Cut yourself and you can discard, whatever card that you need in the grave, it's not a bad option. But for the most part, I just like this card because it's not really, you don't have to go minus. I know Karma Cut can kind of be a plus in some circumstances, depending on what you're discarding anyways. But yeah, we already went over this. This is to deal with Cliffos. It makes the deck much more consistent, and that's why I decided not to go with Curry Bandit, because if you're playing Curry Bandit, you can play the Breakthrough Skills if you want. Breakthrough Skill is a very important card, especially in Mirror Match when you have to deal with a mid-rash and you need to make something. But a lot of times it just comes down to Shaddoll Fusion and then you make Nephilim. And if they happen to deprison your Nephilim, then you're pretty much in a losing position anyways. But yeah, nonetheless, this card is fantastic. I love this card so much in Mirror Match. But yeah, I'll admit there are times where this card is completely dead against certain matchups. Next up, I'm playing one of the Shikigan. I love being able to send these cards to the graveyard. Whatever one I need in the graveyard, I can just send. It's pretty nice for this card. And this card, I mean, they all basically have some type of stun. This one makes it so if they're activating the effect of a special summon monster, you can get rid of a Shaddoll card, and then you get rid of it. And then this one is, if it battles a special summon monster, it's destroyed immediately. And then this one's effect is, and it negates summons, and this one only lets you and your opponent special summon once per turn, so it's a pretty awesome card. This card is just good against Infernities. If you get matched up against Infernities, their main option is going to be something like most outs for certain decks are like to target this by destroying it, and obviously Midrash can pose a big enough threat to Infernities where you shouldn't have a problem. But if you make this against Infernities, they pretty much fold. I would say there's very limited options to get over Leo. I mean, obviously Dark Hole is an option, but that's always an option to get over Leo. Mistform, like I said, in Mirror Match, this card's important. Black Rose, just blow up the field. This is Ying Zing matchup. It makes it easy. It's like easy mode. Then I decided to go double 1-on-1, Excidon and Gaga Cowboy just to burn them off for that last amount of point. Oh, the card that I forgot to mention. Okay, the card that I forgot to mention was Dweller. I dropped the Dweller for 2 more bodies. I matched up against Ying Zing. There's so many players playing that deck, and just being able to make 2 of these, you can drop these for a Dweller. Dweller is okay in Mirror Match. It makes him go super minus technically, but it's still putting up something from the extra deck on board, which allows them to still technically make something. Yeah, they won't be able to go plus, but they'll be able to deal with Dweller relatively fast. Dweller can technically stop them for like, the turn that you're on, and then obviously the next turn. They won't be able to make too many plays. But again, going back to the same idea, they'll just activate Shaddoll Fusion. They won't go as plus, but they'll be able to get over your Dweller relatively quick. It's not like a Dweller will completely stun them for like to the point where you can OTK. Again, I like Dweller more in decks where I can OTK, something like Mermails or something like that, where I can just I'm able to just put a bunch of stuff on board. Because what's going to happen, let's say you make Dweller, they have face downs, you activate Dweller's effect, and you attack another monster. They're still going to be able to get those flip effects, so that's unfortunate for you anyways, but you just destroy them by card effects that turn. They're also going to attempt to go for those effects, but of course if you Dweller previously, then they won't be able to activate those effects, and then it'll come around to their turn. They're going to set their cards, and they'll probably activate Shaddoll Fusion, at which point you'll probably, either you're going to Dweller earlier on or whatever, and then they're just going to set something like Falcon, or they'll be able to set Dragon. So I really just don't like Dweller too much in the Mirror Match. It can be okay, but I just felt like this was too important to run double of these and double of these, because Ying Zings. Maybe once people stop playing the Ying Zing Dragons, because they realize Armadi's what 100% counters the deck, because I played Ying Zing, someone made this against me, I had like 0 outs. Like, unless you're playing Call of the Haunted or it's like a Photon Thrasher or something, there's nothing that the deck has to play aggressive until that some other support comes out for it, which is like the one where you can double their attack. And obviously, I don't even know how viable that is against this, because well, actually, no, I take it back. They'll activate the card. I don't remember the card's name. I don't think it's out in DevPro yet, but it doubles the original attack of a monster, and so most monsters hopefully will be able to run over this. So what will happen is, of course, they can't activate during damage steps. So what's going to happen is they'll just activate the card. They'll keep their monster on board. Then they'll have to synchro, and then at which point maybe you can just bottomless dank or deep dank trap hole anyways, and you'll be good to go. But if you guys have any suggestions for this deck, like I said, let me know in the comment section below. I know someone's gonna comment and tell me to take these out. I like these for Mirror Match. If you don't match up against Shaddoll, it's like you're just one of those players that just doesn't happen to get matched up against the I would say this is probably one of the highest tier decks right now that is out. I know that you can't play these cards technically if you're playing the TCG, but everything here is available. in the TCG right now. So this is basically a really strong build. You could completely drop these, honestly, but the reason why I like the Fire and Ice hand is this card is still pretty good in the game. I could honestly see myself dropping these. But against certain matchups, just being able to put that fear of the Fire and Ice hands in there, it's still not bad. Plus, even if you just have the one Fire hand, it's okay. They'll probably eventually make a Water one. They'll probably make, I think the Wind one got announced, didn't it? I don't remember exactly, but for the most part, they're going to make one for each, so we'll see how good the Water one is, and maybe it'll be definitely good to main deck the Ice hand, just to be able to just send it to the grave. Hey, it's not bad at all, especially when you can still Soul Charge and put that monster on board. That's what I like to do a lot of times when I was playing multiple of the Fire and Ice hands. I would be able to Soul Charge, I'd just go for like an Ice hand, and then as long as I had the other ones in my deck, I'd just be good to go. Like, let's say, for example, the Black Ship of Coronet. That's also an important card. If you happen to run against the Fire and Ice hands, but for the most part, if you make Midrash, they can't destroy, so enjoy. And all the back row here, obviously you can decide when you want to set it. If you know it's a Fire and Ice hand, it's cool, you get pluses anyways with most of the stuff, especially since most of the stuff is technically chainable anyways. Of course, not during damage step, keep that in mind. But for the most part, I think this is a relatively solid build, but if you guys have suggestions, I'd love to hear them. But thanks for watching, guys, and if you guys want to download the deck, and you just want a Netdeck, hey, that's cool. I got a link down below in the description box for a Dropbox link. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Asian Nice out.